Hello, Steve! Who would you say is looking out for you? It's a good question, isn't it? Who would you say is looking out for you? My name is Aaron. This is the Bible Applied, where we choose a bit of the Bible and go through it. And today we're going to be looking at Titus chapter 2, verse 6 to 8. Title. We're going to be looking at how to live so that people will remember you. Titus 2, 6 to 8. It says this. Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show them integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they have nothing bad to say about us. As we head into this next bit of Titus, we are going to see 3 E's that Titus had to abide by. 3 E's that Titus had to be. And the first one is this. He had to be an encourager. Now, how great would it be for older men in church to be teaching younger men about self-control? It's exactly the same thing with older women and younger women. We saw that in the previous video. Some of the teen movies that we have are all about seeking entertainment and feeling good. It's such a feel-good culture. Whereas actually being self-controlled is not really celebrated at all. But in the Bible, self-control is huge. It's an amazing thing. Self-control is such a great characteristic. Why did I do that? It's such a great characteristic. It's such a great characteristic all the way through life, and it is also inspirational. Now, I had a role model when I was growing up, was my youth worker at my church. He was an inspiration to me, but he was an inspiration about self-control as well. Can I be honest with you? I think that self-control is a really difficult thing. Self-control is hard, but it has got the best payback in terms of an investment. It might feel bad at the start, but at the end you get this amazing thing, the ability to have a better life. In the end, it's well worth the wait. So if you manage to not send that picture, or that you know you probably wouldn't be a good thing to send, or if you don't spend that money that you've been given, or if you don't eat that extra thing, or you don't look at that thing online that you know that wouldn't be good for you, it wouldn't be helpful for you. Actually, when you choose not to do those things, though it feels bad at that point, it gives you the ability to so much easier make that decision again next time. Whereas if you give in, actually it's a lot harder to make that decision next time. Self-control works all the way through your life in little decisions, and that's how you get self-control. And Paul here is saying every single time, get self-control. He's saying to Titus, get self-control. Teach it to people. It's a great thing. Self-control. Self-control. Paul firstly needed to be an encourager, and an encourager towards self-control, which takes us to our first application. Who helps you be self-controlled? Who inspires you towards self-control? How can you be more self-controlled? Secondly, it is about being an example. So he needed to be an encourager, firstly, and secondly, he needed to be an example. Now, I only realised when I was growing up that my youth leader at church was being an example to me. I remember walking into church one day and him telling me that he had bought some trousers that week. Now, we ended up talking about it, and it turns out that he hadn't blown all his money on the most expensive trousers. He'd bought budget trousers, and he was teaching me how he was happy with that. Now, that to me sounds like a great thing, but was it arrogant of him to think I could teach this man how to be self-controlled? Absolutely not. See, he taught me self-control. He helped me by sharing his life be self-controlled. You see a bit of spit, you went, boo, just then. Sorry. That was his God-given role. See, Paul says to Titus, be an example. Help people to be self-controlled by living it and showing them how it works. Now we come straight into our application. If you're thinking, I'm not an older man, all right, so I can't show anyone what it is like to be self-controlled, that may not be the case. That's fine. One of my favourite verses in the Bible is 2 Timothy 4, verse 12. It says, do not let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers. So you can still be an example of self-control. And that to me is a great thing. How amazing would it be to have teenagers in churches being examples to the rest of the church what it meant to be self-controlled? And if you're not a teenager and you would class yourself as someone who is older than teenage years, why don't you choose someone who you could show or you could share your life with to be an example for them, to be self-controlled? The third thing that Paul said to Titus was that he needed to be an explainer, not an entertainer. Okay, so that's our third E. E. How do you find sermons at your church? How do you find talks? I mean, sometimes I'm sure that you might find them quite exciting and thrilling. Sometimes you might find them pretty boring. Do you know what Titus would say to that? Titus would say, so what? See, sermons and Bible talks and things, they're not meant to be entertaining. They're supposed to explain how the Bible works and then how it applies to our lives. These videos may not be the most entertaining they can be, but they are meant to be explaining to you how the Bible applies to your life. Now, there were these false teachers in Crete, and to be honest, they were probably very easy for people to listen to. It didn't take much hard work, but that's probably because they weren't saying anything of much relevance. Whereas Paul is asking Titus, be someone who's relevant, explain points, help people to understand the truth of the Bible. Because if it's true, then it's worth listening to. And if it means something for us today, then it's hugely important. And that brings us to our last application. What can we change today because of this? What is the point of all this? Why is Paul writing to Titus these words? Paul was asking Titus to stand in opposition to those who were opposing the gospel, those who were opposing the good news of Jesus Christ. Not everyone is going to like you because you're a Christian. Not everyone is going to act right around you. Some people might find it really weird. Now, it happened to Paul, definitely. It might have happened to Titus, and it could happen to us. As we live in our culture, people might find it weird that we live out the truth of the gospel. People who are encouragers, they are examples, and they are explainers are really hard to take down. So be encouraged. You are part of a movement of the gospel that is incredible. It's an amazing thing to be part of. So for you, what could you do today to change this? Well, if you're slightly older, maybe you could find someone who you could be an example to. Maybe you could help them out to be growing in self-control. And maybe if you're younger and you're watching this, then maybe you can see areas of your life where you need to show self-control, where you need to get that. I wonder whether this week that's something that you could do, whether you could put in place something to help you be self-controlled. This has been the Bible Applied, and I will see you next time! Steve's challenge. Okay, time for another Steve's challenge. Let's see what you've got. Let's see what you got. Tell the best joke. The best joke wins. The best joke. Steve, what are you doing to me? It's the best joke, right? I walked into a bank. An old lady in the bank asked me if I could check her balance for her, and so I pushed her over. Literally no reaction. If you feel that you can do a better joke than I can, then feel free. Just make sure that you go to the Facebook page for the Bible Applied. Check on there and see if you can apply into the Facebook group. And then you'll be able to see if you can amuse everyone else with your best joke. Just take a video and upload it onto there, and we will see who has the best joke. Please keep them clean. That would be really helpful. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.